Well, hello again folks, we are back in the bait room, not fishing. We're going to make some boilies. I prefer to roll my own bait. There's a few kind of reasons behind that. So, why do I roll my own bait? I find it an interesting hobby. It's a kind of a good way of passing the time, and I firmly believe that anyone can produce at home bait that is of a far higher quality than what you're going to buy in the tackle shop from one of the big name firms. You've got control over the quality and the quantity of the ingredients that you're using. Most sort of commercially made boilies, apart from some of the more sort of boutique boilie producers, are essentially looking to produce as much bait as easy as possible, the least amount of money, and then market it to sell it for the most amount of money. Whereas if you're rolling bait at home, you're looking to produce a high quality, attractive, nutritious bait. Now, I've kind of mucked around over the years, tinkered around. What I'm going to be rolling today is a Fishmeal based boilie. It's actually developed by a Facebook group that I'm a member of. It was the first in history boilie sort of made, the recipe made by sort of online collaboration, and the bait was called Tropamino. It was kept kind of secret, you know, it was a private group kind of thing, and then after a little while, the recipe was, by agreement of all the members of the group, it was made available to a large ingredient supplier, and you can actually buy the Tropamino base mix directly from a company called BAF, or British Aquafeeds. It's an expensive base mix, and the reason being is it is really bloody good. It just has a lot of high quality, expensive ingredients in it. It's not packed out with floor sweepings and soil and crap that you can find in a lot of boilies. You look at the ingredients list and the protein level in them, and you just know they're garbage. The Tropamino boilie is a high protein, nutritional bait, and it works like that wherever I've used it. So you know, you could call it an instant bait as well. There's so much attraction in it that fish immediately know it's food. My base mix is actually a sort of a 50-50 mix, because I had about 10 kilos of one of my own recipes left over. Now that was called SQUIDAMINO, so it's virtually the same mix as Tropamino. It's just that the krill and a portion of the fish meal was swapped out for squid meal. I have pimped up the mix as well, so it's 50% SQUIDAMINO in there, it's 50% Tropamino, which I just bought 10 kilo bags straight from BAF, and then I've added a few other ingredients and vitamins and things into it as well, just to tweak it and make it my own, essentially. I think that's part of the beauty of rolling your own bait, is the scope for twiddling and inventing and customizing it is basically endless. You know, you can use a different mix of liquids in there, or different flavours or different additives in the base mix itself. So what I'll do, I'll give you a quick rundown of the sort of gear you basically need to produce a reasonable quantity of boilies. You know, there are more manual methods than even what I do, and it's bloody hard work to produce a decent amount of bait like that. So I'll collapse the camera down and kind of move it around, and I'll just show you what I've got here. You'll notice my bait lab is not sterile like an operating theatre. It's pretty rough and ready. I'm sure it will appall some people, but it does me fine. So right, so I've got a mixer. Definitely recommend you get a mixer. Let's see if I can just zoom out a little bit. Mixer, mixing by hand is knackering, especially in the summer. I got rolling tables. I've got a whole different variety of ones down there. If you can see them, the light's pretty crappy, and I do apologise. It's really bright outside, but it's dark in here. That's an 18mm table. I think that's what we'll use today. I've got a blender. I've got this sort of work surface here is where I'll gun out the sausages, and I use a corking gun extruder to do that. Again, you can get manual ones you do by hand, but mate, it's just bloody exhausting. So spending a bit of money just makes your life easier. You don't need this stuff, but trust me, if you can afford it, you will definitely thank yourself for buying it. Alright, all these big buckets and things are all full of different ingredients and whatnot. And then just keep that way. Under there, you can see that we're going to be using whole egg powder rather than eggs. I just thought I'd buy a whole load of that. It just makes life easier, really. And then outside, to actually boil the baits in, I've got a large chip fryer, and the reason I put it out of here is because if you use that in the shed in the summer, you basically boil yourself alive and you don't even feel like going fishing. Take a little look at the base mix itself. I mean, can't tell much from that really. I will put the not the exact recipe for this because this is a bit of a mishmash, but I'll put at least a Fishmeal, a quality Fishmeal boilie base mix recipe at the bottom of the video. So you have base mix, and then you have liquids as well. That's all right. Right, so what I do is get my scales. This is to make around about 1.4, 1.5 kilos of boilies. So I put my blender jug on the scales. Gonna add 350 mils, 350 grams, which is 350 mils. Oh dear, the scales have had a bit of a upset. Let's try it again. I've got way too much. $3.61, that'll do. Now whole egg powder. If you can see on there, but that is 1 scoop is around 35 grams, so I add 3 scoops to 350 grams of water, and then add another 150 grams of additional liquids, which we'll have a look at in a minute. Blender on its mount thingy. I'm using pond water just because the pond is not too far away. You can use tap water, mineral water, or whatever the bloody hell you like. I'm sure the carp don't really care. So it's essentially 3 of those. Fish, bash, bosh. I weigh all my liquids just under the assumption that a gram is around about a mil. Now, so I want 150 grams of liquids in here. I'm going to go about 50, a bit more than that, squid. You don't have to be exact with this stuff. This is fish hydro, take up to 120. I've got a little bit of stuff here called Super Boost. I'll just put, it's kind of yeasty, nice smelling, rich, sort of thick gravy like stuff. And then you need a bit of oil in there as well, and that just aids the rolling process, and it's nutritionally beneficial for the fish as well. I've just got a big 20mm syringe. Boom, job's a good one. Get that on the blender. Oops, might help to put it in. Liquid's done, and then I'm just going to add some flavours to that as well. So that camera just decided to turn itself off. Yeah, just talking about flavours. I'm going to use 2 flavours, both John Baker ones. This is Ala Salar, which is a disgusting salmon smell. And then TM1, which is a sort of a creamy mapley smell. So unusual combination. I'll use that this week and caught quite a few fish, so I'll do that again. 1.5 mils of each. Using these syringes to measure it out. 1.5. Oh, bugger. That's my needle. That's not good. Right, stir that round by hand. Alright, so that's all your liquids in there done. Adds up to about half a litre, about 500 grams. So whack that in there. This is a fairly cheapo mixer. It's got quite a big capacity. If it craps out on me, then I'll just buy another one basically. I think it's about 60 quid. There's some power to that one. put it on a low speed, and it's the kind of classic cake mixy paddle in there. I basically just measure out my base mix with a little saucepan. Just shy of that, 2 of those. Normally you've just got to use your own judgment in terms of paste sort of consistency. I reckon that might be a tad dry, so I'm just going to turn it on. I'm just going to add a teeny weeny little bit more liquid in there. For some reason, unbeknown to me, that camera keeps turning itself off. It's a bit annoying. Right, so this is what's known as your paste. I normally do roll it into a pretty fat sausage, cut it into 3. And then roll those into sausages that are going to fit down the corking gun barrel. Everyone's got their own different way of doing things. I'm not the most efficient boilie roller, but it does me. So slide straight down there. You get the appropriate nozzle. And hopefully this will gun out fast. It depends on the stiffness of your mixture. I'll have a go. It's not going to gun out fast, I don't think. No. Honestly, I've got no idea why this camera keeps switching itself off. Me and tech that do not get on. So I just chop the sausages up in sort of table-sized portions with a plasterer's trowel. Whack them on, 2, 3. Just brush them off into there. Next lot. You can set up contraptions for doing this more efficiently, but I can't be bothered to do that, I'd rather go fishing. Oops, last one. I won't bother showing you boiling them. Basically, whack them in there, boil them till they float, take them out, put them in a drying rack, and then yeah, in these sort of conditions, hot. You could probably dry them, bag them up and put them in the freezer tonight. The other day I just bagged them up and went straight to the lake. I'm going to get my little boat out and just have a bit of a scout around down the river. I've been cycling up down there a little bit and having a bit of a look. Looks like somebody's kind of discovered where I was planning on fishing and cut out this massive 2-man swim, which was annoying and kind of stupid because they're going to boil to death in there now. I'm going to go down there and have a look, try and locate an area where I can make a swim that's in the shade basically. I've been feeding an area where there isn't a swim currently, and I'm going to go down there on the boat, and it'll probably be a boat access only swim, so there won't be any chance of any annoyance when I fish it over the next few, well, since the season start, a couple of days time. I'm going to fish the river a lot over the summer. Possibly I will spend a lot of time down there, possibly won't waste a lot of time actually fishing, and I'm only really planning on fishing, apart from this opening couple of nights, I'm only really planning on fishing when I've seen evidence of carp, rather than what I did last year was lazy. I heavily baited a spot and repeatedly fished it and repeatedly blanked. So that was kind of bad angling on my part. I caught one early on in the season and then that was it. There the old boilies boiling away. I would do a sort of a mix that size, 1.5 kilos. I'd probably do that in about 4 batches. It takes about 2 minutes to boil each batch. Yeah, so I've just done a couple of batches of 18mm for general fishing. Now I'm doing a couple of batches of 25mm hardened baits. I'm using an ingredient called whey gel, which hardens the baits up. Some sort of milk derivative. That makes them much tougher so they can resist the attentions of little roach and things, and that's also why I've made them big. Like if you put 18mm boilies in the river, those roach will whittle them down to nothing in hours, especially if they haven't been hardened. So yeah, just going to knock up, I don't know, might do about 4.5 kilos of these, something like that. Oh, sweet. There is good 6 kilos of bait there. So I'll leave that to dry out for a few hours. And then I'll pop down the river. There's plenty of blue bottles on it, so that's always a good sign. If boilies are inundated with flies, you know it's going to work. Well, there you go. I hope you enjoyed that. That was me knocking up some boilies. I'll put a simple, effective Fishmeal boilie recipe underneath, and if you fancy making your own, then there's companies like Bath and AA Baits that supply all the ingredients and stuff, and then there's various Facebook groups, including Homemade Bait Buffs, where you can pick the brains of people who know more than you. And trust me, most of them know more than I do, but I still managed to make a half decent bait. So sweet, I shall see you later. Cheers.